not meet nicer people. Whoops, I'm going to point there and there. You will not meet nicer people.
Been coming back to a show that I dearly love and admire, so thanks for having me.
It's like, that's Big Starklighter's homie. So how did you know? Because I'm a nerd.
I've placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into the memory systems of this R2 unit.
But, I was doing my research, and Wedge was obviously a character that you had to use if you were going to do Rogue Squadrons.
What are you doing, C-3PO? I'm taking one last look at my friends. These aren't your friends.
Cassie and Jim on the beach, and people are like, no. I can literally hear people like, no.
It doesn't look like they're even hungry when they get out. They're not just like, did you bring a Snickers or something? There's no logic to it. And then later, when we haven't even talked about the Wilfred Brimley of it all.
I'm honored to be here. I'm also impressed that you got Zach Galifianakis as a guest tonight.
Because Darth Vader was the scariest thing that had ever happened to anybody, and this guy literally looks like the devil.
You? Don't do that. There is no try.
What's the big question people have? Like, what's the thing everybody's wondering about? What's the thing I don't understand? What would I want to hear?
The galaxy isn't growing to push people out. It's growing to let more people come in and find their love so that it's able to continue and create this connective tissue.
It's good to know that people still love it out there and that the people who made it are all proud and passionate about it and willing to come back.
It was a mess, dude. I had to wear a patch for a bit. We went to see Star Wars that night because I said, no, I'm going. We have to go. And I went to see Star Wars with a huge thing on my eye.
I like to denote people as daddies from time to time.
Okay.
And I believe that you are a certified daddy. Like Pedro Pascal's a daddy. Like,
All right.
Certified daddy.
I have had the best time ever on Around the Galaxy. Thank you so much.
Well, welcome to Around the Galaxy, the Star Wars fan talk show. I am one of your hosts. I'm Pete Fletzer. I'm joined by Nick. Nick Milky, how are you?
Good evening, my friend. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you too. And if you're watching us live as we record, that means you're a patron. So thank you so much for being a part of the streaming Star Wars Network family. And thanks for joining us tonight. We are joined by not one, but two wonderful guests this evening. If you are a fan of Return of the Jedi, of the Ewok Caravan of Courage, or Blade Runner, or a host of other films and TV shows, which I'm sure we'll touch on, and you're going to be excited as we are to talk to Kevin Thompson and his wife Tracey. They have a book out called My Journey to Endor. So without further ado, let me bring them both in. And ladies and gentlemen, Tracey and Kevin Thompson, how are you guys?
Hi, how are you guys?
Great. It's so good to see you.
Internet family.
So we are really excited to have you here with us this evening. And so maybe for those who don't recognize the name off the top of their heads, maybe just give us a quick introduction to the two of you.
To a quick introduction to the two of us. Well, I've been acting since 1981. My first line was a little movie done by Warner Brothers called Blade Runner. And then I've been acting for 42 years in the business. Also did a little movie called Return of the Jedi, and then was asked to do Caravan of Courage and Battle for Endor. So those are those things. Also wrote on the float with George Lucas in the Rose Parade. I was the only Ewok from the movies to ride on the float.
Awesome.
And luckily I met my wife right after I did Return of the Jedi. I actually brought her to the screening, the premiere. And that was the luckiest and most best thing I ever did. And she, not only being my wife, she wrote my story of Return of the Jedi, of being the crazy Ewok who didn't quite really didn't get noticed didn't get a figure until about 20 years later with the Kmart vintage Star Wars set with the catapult, and
Right.
that's where I was named Chubre.
Right.
But I have about 18 other characters that have not been named. So, hey, we could have a whole name game of naming all my different Ewoks.
I know. It's actually it's really interesting to me, and I think that's one of the hallmarks, if you will, of Star Wars now is that every character background. Otherwise, we have an interview coming up in the next week with somebody who is numerous background characters in the sequel trilogy and other stories, and they all have a story, they all have a name, and so it's great that. And I'm glad that they
characters that don't have names.
Well, let's do
exactly.
it. Let's,
well, and
I take out all
there
three
is
ATSTs.
That's right.
It's basically I kick the Empire's ass and everybody follows.
And they couldn't even be bothered to give you a name. But but that is a neat thing, and Pete, you hit on it, where over the history of Star Wars, we've had these characters and the way the names have been introduced. Like you said, Kevin, 18 years later in a Kmart toy line, your character gets a name. There was a lot of characters that got names with the West End trading game. There were, comic books, kind of backstoried and gave names to characters. Like in a universe that's so rich and diverse and full of characters, it's almost a fun, cool problem to have so many characters that we need to find names for them still.
We do. I've got some name, we could call him Gus or Billy or, something like that.
Give them some suggestions.
Exactly.
Right. Instead of that one and that one. Right.
I'm that one. I'm that guy. Which one? Not that guy. That guy.
Not Shiny. The other one.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so Tracey, you one of your, I guess the first date was to go see him in this little tiny independent film called Return of the Jedi, and that's pretty wild.
Well, it was wild. I knew Kevin from mutual friends, and so we belong to an organization called Little People of America, which it's little people from all over the world, and so we just happened to be both native California.
Oh, what happened? Oops. Sorry, hang on one second. Can you hear us? We lost your audio. Hang on.
We lost your audio.
Hang on 1 second. Sorry. Can you hear us? Okay, we can't hear you. Hang on. Are you muted somewhere? Let me see. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No.
Not able to hear you.
I can't hear. Let's see.
Wait a second. Nope, I still can't hear you. Maybe try to drop out and come right back in, and we'll hope for the best there. Let's see if we can do that. Sorry about that. That's so strange.
Matt says, "Fix it, Santa."
I can't.
Lay your finger aside your nose.
Oh.
Okay. Wait. Now we can hear you. We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, how's that?
Hey.
Oh, we're back.
Works. And we're back.
Hello?
Yes.
Testing.
Yep.
1, 2,
Yep.
3.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
Got it.
Ewok, yup nub. Chika wamba, da chika wo da yi da chu. We're back at you talking about the premiere of the date.
Oh yeah. So my name's Tracey Thompson. And
she was Tracy McCoy at the time, though.
Right. So
They
during
weren't married.
right.
Go ahead. It was the premiere.
Right.
Right.
And
how was it?
It was great. And so we went, and it was a lot of fun. It was with all the little people and everybody, getting dressed up and seeing what Kevin was doing. So it was a big deal to go. And he gave me a Blue Harvest sweatshirt that only the crew members got, because that was the code name.
Revenge of the Jedi.
For Revenge of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was cool. So I knew he was kind of digging me. He was kind of into me if he was giving me a Blue Harvest t-shirt and inviting me to the premiere.
If he gives you the crew shirt, you're in.
Right.
It's going well. It's a good
I
sign.
think it was.
And 35
No
years
stains
later,
at
it was
all.
clearly a good date.
Right.
It's great.
So it works.
So tell us a little bit about the book and how you decided to what made you decide to write it, and tell us a little bit more about it. It's called My Journey to Endor. You can get it on Amazon, which is where
Yes.
I've got mine coming from. And
Or
where's
demand it at your local bookstore. Demand it. Demand that they put it in the
Don't
shelf.
ask nicely. Go in and say, "Give me this book
No.
now."
Demand
Yeah.
So how did you? What was the inspiration to get it to put
Well,
a book together? And yeah,
For all our relationship, Kevin always tells stories wherever we go. He's a storyteller, and so he would see a kid in the grocery store or wherever, and he with a Star Wars shirt on, and he'd say, "Hey,
I'm in that.
I'm in that," and then
And just walk by.
and then a kid would look at him like, "What? Who's this little man talking to me? What's he talking about?" So then we would
Say
always
it to adults.
right, and so
I'm in that.
So we would be 2 hours later, it's still in the grocery store with him telling the stories.
And then there was the
yeah. So then, he always wanted to tell these stories and write them down because through the years, various people, because Ewoks, it hasn't really been who anybody can say that they were in it, and so we needed to set the record straight and say, we need to make sure that the Ewoks get credit where credit is due, and who exactly was behind in those costumes, because it's really hard to tell, and the way the
different Ewoks
credits
were
things.
taking my thunder and saying they did these stunts, and it's like, no,
and
no,
it's
you
really
did
hard.
not do that stunt.
And it's
Oh
really
yes,
hard,
I did.
and it's really hard to prove otherwise,
Right.
Sure.
because in a costume. So we had to make sure that we got it right, and so that people out there would know who actually did the work, because it was hard work, and what it really took to be an Ewok in the woods, and swinging
It
on
wasn't
ropes
easy.
and not being
Sure.
able to see and all those kind of things, and especially when
Half a mile to the outhouse.
yeah, and your inseam
Mhm.
is 16 inches, and they're running around in the woods, and sticks
Right.
and dirt and rocks, and so
right.
yeah, so it really it was time to get it down into writing, and and COVID, 4 years together, we finally just sat down and did it,
And it was also for
Sure.
our son. We wanted to write those things down.
Mhm.
I had lost my parents during the time we were writing this book, and also
Mm.
Tracey had lost her father several years earlier, and there were stories that we wanted to listen to our parents that they weren't there anymore, so we wanted to write these stories down for our son for that too.
yeah, and that's really what it
Right.
started out to be, is to leave it as a legacy for our son, and then people got really interested in it, and it just became, it got put together, and we're really happy about it. We're really proud of it. We're
I
excited.
tried to write it, and Tracy was kind of looking at me going, really? Okay, I'll help you. And by gosh, yes, thank God she did, because I'm a storyteller, but I'm not a writer. And
Right, yeah.
writing the book is,
Sure.
I'll just write a book.
Turns out not so much.
No, it's different. Trying to get from this to this
Right.
Sure.
is a long journey.
Yeah. Oh, it's
This
a
to
different
this
skill.
is
Right.
really easy.
Yeah. That's great.
Absolutely. Well, I know that the book is filled with stories about Return of the Jedi, and we definitely want you to share a couple of those as we chat tonight. I'm going to dial it just a little bit back before that. If you could share with us your first memories of seeing Star Wars before we even got to Return of the Jedi, and how that kind of inspired. Certainly, there was a part of you that must have said, I want to be in these movies possibly. Tell us about your earliest, when you saw Star Wars the first time, what it did to you.
Well, I stood in line with my friends, and they wanted to see it, and I was like, oh man, look, there's nobody in line for this one. I've heard this is a really good movie. I forget what the movie was, but I remember them saying, I'm looking at the line going, really? You guys want to stand in line? Okay, I'll stand in line with you guys, about 4 guys, and your high school buddies. And so we all bought tickets and got in line. We didn't have to wait for like the next showing, but we stood in line and waited. And I was grabbed as soon as that the credit started going, and the destroyers chasing after the rebel cruiser, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my, it's just, that was it. I wanted to meet Princess Leia. I wanted to be Han Solo. I wanted to hang out with Chewie. I just was really into it. I went back again and again, brought other friends and to these movies to say, that this is, but then I couldn't be a nerd because I was hanging with the cool guys and all the nerds were watching Star Wars. And I was like, well, I'm not one of them, but I am. But I didn't want to be one of, it was not those guys, but I was,
sure.
So it was kind of hidden. It was like hidden, just, I was a hidden nerd. I didn't want to let people know that,
Right.
I would have never gotten her had she known that I was such a nerd.
Well, it's good that you were.
But you were a movie star, so it was
And
fine.
then I went
totally
back
worked out.
And in fact, on Empire Strikes Back, we watched that, and when it ends with everybody, everything going, Han's here, and Luke's here, and Chewie's here, and Darth Vader is here, and what the heck's going on here? I stood up and said, "It's not over." My friends are all looking at me going, what's wrong with you, dude? Like, chill. No, it's not over. We got to watch. There's got to be something after the credits. And they're like, the credits are rolling. So my friends sat there with me, and we watched the whole credits, waiting for something like, how they do now with the after credit.
Exactly.
Like little clip. They didn't do that. It just came on, and the lights came on, and they're like, okay, the credits are over. Are you finished? Can we go now?
That's outstanding. Well, and so you get the first 2. Of course, you've got the excitement, you've got the vigor, you're totally absorbed in this galaxy. And then there's going to be word. Of course, you knew, sitting there waiting for that after credit scene that didn't come, you knew there had to be more. And that brings us to your big moment. So tell us about how you got into the movie, how you got to be a part of the cast, maybe even how old were you when you were in Jedi? Tell us about that experience and how that came about.
I was 22, and I had done a movie called Under the Rainbow, and they used a whole bunch of little people in that movie. Tracey was just a little too young for that, or else she would have been in that. They were actually wanted you for that movie, and they found out that she was too young for that movie. And it depicted a kind of a mockumentary of the making of The Wizard of Oz. And so they just did some crazy, it was a crazy screwball comedy with Carrie Fisher. But what happened was that the guys, the Star Wars people, found the people who cast that movie, of the extras who knew all the little people. And they said, well, we're going to have a big audition for these guys. They first had a very physical audition for the stunt players, and then whoever didn't make the stunt players, they want, because it was a very physical role, and they wanted physically active little people in this movie. So I go on the audition. They never told me what the name was of the project or when it was filming or anything. It was just go to this audition and see what happens. And that usually doesn't happen. You know who the filmmakers are, you know what the title is, you know your character. None of that was given away. And we all sat in a room, and in a waiting room, which is basically called a cattle call. Little people. It was a little people cattle call. So I knew a lot of the players because I am from, both Tracey and I, like she said, are from Los Angeles, and so I knew a lot of the people, my competition, and also I, not only being with the Little People of America, I'm a team called the Hollywood Shorties, the smallest professional basketball and baseball teams in the world. We're kind of a comedy type team, but we're very active, and we're very plenty of those, I want to say 6 to 8 players of that team made the Ewoks and were in the movie.
Okay.
And so I did an audition for J.R. Randall, who was the stunt coordinator. And he also had done E.T., Poltergeist, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and a lot of just big budget movies.
Movies people may have heard of.
Movies people may have heard of, not your little indie part things. So it was a big time audition when we did that, and I didn't know that until I went into the audition and met him, and then people were talking about him afterwards. So it was like, whoa, what could this be? Because it was about the time that it was being done, that it would be about the timing for the filming. And you're a Star Wars nerd too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not bad.
Not bad. Not bad I wasn't. But they had you, because didn't they tell you to act like a monkey or something?
Yeah,
like a space.
What's
it the thing?
Like a bear, cross between a bear and a monkey.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was like, because we didn't know what the characters were going to be. They said they were going to be very physically limited, and the sight would not be able to be seen. And so I actually closed my eyes on audition and started moving around. And I was a gymnast in high school and college, and plus being the athlete for the Hollywood Shorties and stuff. So I did, and I was also a street mime. So I did mime, and he was very interested in the mime of where you create characters without props. And so he wanted to know that. So I was doing this bear and monkey cross between, and he was very interested in that. Plus I was doing some gymnastics during the audition, which I don't know if other guys did that, but I did. Like I ran into a wall and did a pratfall down, did a back roll into a handstand, fell on my face, came up and said, "Is there anything else you'd like me to do?"
But you left feeling pretty
I
good.
left feeling very good because he was throwing different situations at me, and I was doing each one of them very fluidly right into each different character. And I knew that the other guys all wanted that part too. So when I did receive the part, I was Felix Silla, who was actually in on the audition. He knew J.R. Randall from Poltergeist, and he had worked with him on that. He was the stunt double for the little guy on that. And Bobby Porter, who was another, he did a lot of stunts, and then Billy Barty's stuntman, Jimmy Briscoe. So I was in with some big company, with getting that part. It was very exciting for me, especially being only 22. These were all seasoned veterans.
That's very cool. And so you talk about getting the part. You've gotten in through these auditions. You've had this process. Tell us about the moment when you find out what it is that you're getting to be in. Tell us about the moment when the light bulb for Star Wars comes on.
Well, it was fine. It was in the mail. They kept saying it was a standalone. It's not really Star Wars. You may hear that. We may call it. It was Blue Harvest. So most of the because there was nothing on the internet, it was all mail, and so in the mail it would say on a stationery, on the letterheads it would say Blue Harvest, and so everything we got was Blue Harvest. It wasn't until I really didn't know until they took me to London. They took the 4 of us to London to modify the costumes for stunts. That when I opened the door. The doors open. It's kind of like a Hollywood moment. It really was. On the sound stages at Elstree Studios. Elstree Studios. Yeah, Elstree Studios. I opened the door and there's the Ewok village, 40 feet in the air, and a couple of Ewoks are walking by, and then we take a freight elevator up, and there's George. There's stormtrooper helmets. There's Billy D. Williams, there's Mark Hamill, there's Harrison Ford, there's Carrie Fisher. And it's like, okay, We're doing Star Wars.
Yeah. I'd say that's the grandest of grand reveals, to walk in and have all
So
of
you didn't even
those.
realize it was Star Wars until you were on the set. That's
They
amazing.
really it didn't, because they kept saying it wasn't, and it was.
Right.
I had strong suspicions,
Sure.
but I wasn't totally proven until I actually saw the characters in the flesh.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. And I even, as a collector, I'm salivating listening to you talk about the pieces of stationery that say Blue Harvest on them, because that's such a great collectible. Like, and how many people got letters like that, like you did, and they just were like, okay, well, I'm done, and it got, tossed or whatever. Those are those grail fun
my family
items.
members cleaned out my, when I was moving out, they kind of threw it away and things like that.
Mhm.
So
We have a few pieces.
Yeah.
That's
but
amazing.
yes, I should.
When I went to Celebration in Orlando in 2017, the folks from Prop Store that have the booth and do the big auctions and that kind of stuff, they had just like pad folios set up that you could rifle through, and they were literally like production notes and like casting call sheets for certain shooting days. And you could buy a lot of them because, again, it's like they cleaned out a file cabinet and it didn't have anything noteworthy on it, but it would be like, Blue Harvest, shooting day 47. It might have a location on it. It might say, 2 troopers and a this. Like, it didn't say Carrie Fisher. It didn't say Harrison Ford, but it was still just like the little minutia and the reminder of like the amount of stuff that goes into making these amazing journeys. And you got to be a part of that from that background side and to see it and to tell those stories in your book. And that's amazing.
Yeah, we take you right. Tracey was very good about that. I was not that. I couldn't capture that as much of where Tracey brings that right to, brings the smells of the dirt and the ferns and the sweat of the characters right to your eyes from the pages.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Let's pull Tracey into the spotlight and tell us a little bit about having the opportunity, of course, to write this book with your husband, but to tell these stories that he, certainly lived, and you were around and present and, connected at some point. But like, tell us about this process for you and what it meant to be able to do exactly that, to tell that detail.
Well, we learned as we went along and how different we both write and speak. And, being married for so long, you kind of can just look at each other and know what each other's saying. So
right.
During COVID, like I said, we sat down and I had injured my back. So, I couldn't do a whole lot at that time. And so when I was putting his stories down and getting it, typed and actually on paper, I would ask him, like, well, what did it taste like? It must have, like, because I've done costume work myself, so I know the limitations and the heat and the sweat and all that, and the excitement and the adrenaline and things like that. But they were outside. It wasn't really in a, the British actors were the ones that were in the village in a soundstage, where the people, the stunt Ewoks, were actually in the redwood forest, in the dirt, in the twigs, in the
bugs, and the
weather, the outdoor
dealing
elements.
with the nature.
So there was a lot more going on. It wasn't as controlled. And so I was like, you guys must have ate dirt, when you fell or when,
we did.
And there were explosions, real life explosions.
10-foot pieces of redwood.
When people caught fire, they would smell their fur.
3 times.
Yeah. So
wow.
I wanted to make sure those things got across to the fans.
Absolutely.
That, it's not in a controlled environment. They're gonna, they caught fire, they, got wet and all those things. So I would always ask Kevin, what did it feel like? How did you run with your eyes closed, and those kind of things. So it was challenging, but it was fun as well. And then with our son, he, it's a boy's boy, where he was rough and tumble also. So it kind of brought that childlike play.
Which they kind of wanted to bring that, because we were, you wanted to have fun doing it, but it was in, very dangerous situations.
Yeah.
So you want to be fun, but you have to be controlled.
Right.
And so that's what Tracey was, and she had been hearing these stories for 30 years anyway. And she'd be going, she'd raise her hand going, I've heard this one.
Yeah.
Now you don't have to hear them anymore. You
Yeah.
can just say, I'm just going to go
Yeah.
read this page. I know
That's
where we
on
are.
page 36.
That's right. Just tell you where it is.
And
Now,
now
have you?
here we are telling more stories. So
That's great.
It's
Have
all
Dave-
good. And who would have thought 40 years later, you know,
Have
Return
the-
of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's right. This is the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, which is
Yeah.
really exciting. Have you maintained connection with the other Ewok actors over the years, or?
Yeah. No, that was the neat thing about the American Ewoks is that we all knew each other. We had we had known each other from, like I said, the Hollywood Shorties.
Right.
One LA is there's a conglomerate of little people who live here and who aren't in the industry, or they just have just everyday jobs, whether being a bank teller or a mechanic or a salesperson, and they decided to take a leave of absence and get onto this job. Plus, a lot of the actors who were in town went and did this job too, and so we had known each other because of Under the Rainbow, so we knew each other from that. So the cliques formed. They weren't really cliques. We had already known each other. We hung out with certain people anyway, and so those were the people, and we knew who was had the same shared interests.
But tell them what it was like when you meet the British actors.
Oh,
the British Ewoks.
British Ewoks. JR, the stunt coordinator, was all set for a big showdown.
He liked to.
He liked
was
to.
a hay shaker.
It was hay
He
shaker.
was setting up some sharks and jets kind of stuff.
Exactly. It wasn't. They had no idea we were coming.
Right.
They had no idea. They, in fact, had heard about the stunts because they were working already. And so they were kind of fighting amongst themselves, saying, they're going to pick me. They're not going to pick you. I'm better than you. And that type of thing, which is, just, guys, busting each other, ribbing each other, stuff like that.
Right.
And then we walk in.
The same day that you're talking about your first day going on stage.
Right. That same day going in. We come in. We're the only people in street clothes. All the other little people out there are in the Ewok outfits. We meet Mike Edmonds, Jack Purvis, and Kenny Baker of the main Ewoks.
Sure.
And so somebody said, one of the extras looked at me and said, "What do we got? New recruits?" And me, being 22, being young and boastful and brash, said, "Oh, we're here to do all your stunts." Crickets.
Yeah,
they all looked at me and went, it was like silence. And they all gave me that look of record scratch. Yeah.
Who's this young little guy?
Who's this guy?
Doing our
and so the other stunt guys were like, way to go, Kev. Way to go.
Great. Way to make friends.
We just made friends. So it started out on a rough patch, but they kind of realized that with the help of Warwick Davis, which we write in the book too, is that Warwick being just a kid. He's
at the time,
old.
right? Yeah.
And he's just a lovely, lovely guy. And he still is. We are in contact with him all the time. I'm just too tall for Willow. So that's the way that works. No, really, I am. And he says, "I wanted to meet you guys. You guys are the stuntmen. Tell me all about it." And so we were telling him all about what type of things we were. And then all of a sudden we realized we had gathered a group and we're just talking to little Warwick about this. And everybody realizes that we're not just some random little guys. We're actually trained stuntmen to be doing these things. And it's a good thing we did, because there was some crazy stuff that went on.
And you guys said train before you even went over there.
Right.
You?
We were training all the time. We were doing that. And then two of the guys left to do other projects. Bobby went off to become a stunt coordinator. And then I got somebody at the door later. And then Jimmy went off to do an Italian film. So now all of a sudden, me being the fourth one, now I'm the second one Now I'm the number 2 guy.
Right.
And Felix and me, we're the guys that are going to do it. And then with Felix being a little bit older and looking like a child in the suit, because he then went off and did the stunt doubling for Short Run in Raiders 2 right after this.
Temple of Doom. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And so that's the way he was built. I'm built a little bit differently. I look like an alien in the outfit, and they liked that look. And I was a gymnast, and they were looking for those type of things. So then I became the number 1 stuntman on the job.
Wow. Very cool.
Fantastic.
And so, speaking, I would be remiss if I didn't take us back just a little bit before Return of the Jedi and talk a little bit about Blade Runner. That was before or after Under the Rainbow?
That was right after Under the Rainbow.
Okay. And
a guy calls me up and says, "Hey, would you like to do some extra work?" And I was like, "All right, yeah, I hadn't done anything in a while." It says it's at night and it's downtown. I said, "All right, I'd do that." So I went downtown, and it was a little bit different than just downtown and at night. It was nights, it was rain, it was smoke, it was horrible. It was just god awful. We were downtown, you're amongst we had homeless then. People keep saying, "What happened to the homeless?" There was homeless then 40 years ago.
Sure.
They didn't, and they were kind of blending right in with our other extras. And I'm thinking to myself going, and this is where Tracey really captures it in the book. This story is in that book of, it's like, I am just so, I'm not coming back. They want me to come back. I'm not coming back. This just sucks. I hate this. This is yuck. And so a guy comes up and goes, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Does this guy really want to know how I'm doing?" Okay, I need to vent. I'm going to vent. So I told him how I was doing. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. I'm cold. I'm freezing. I am not doing very well. I got this smoke going up my things. This is crazy. I'm trying to eat. I've got it all wet. And this sucks. He goes, "Oh, sorry." And he says, he hands me a little Dixie cup. Remember those things, the old Dixie cups?
Yeah.
And I go, he goes, "You want a sip?" I go, "What's the sip?" So I take a sip. It's scotch. And it's the good stuff. And I was like, "Wow, what do you do?" He goes, "Hi, Ridley. I'm the director."
Wow. Amazing.
You know that stuff I just said? Didn't say it at all. Just
didn't say a word.
He was probably feeling the same way you were.
Yeah. And then he went and wrote 3 parts for me.
Wow.
All right. So you were
the 3 parts for me.
You were Bear.
I was Bear.
Right.
I'm one of the little guys that jumped the car.
Okay. Right.
There were 4 little guys jumped the car.
Yep.
And the floating car when Decker is in the thing, it says, and then I made one of the toys right before the big fight with Pris. I'm a smoking clown.
Okay. Cool.
Nice.
I'm putting Blade Runner
I was
in
using
tonight.
my mime skills.
Right, because you said you were right. The street mime certainly came into play there.
Yes,
and,
exactly.
And who was the Kaiser? Was that?
That was a fellow by the name of John Edward Allen, who
Okay.
passed away several years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And it's funny because those, and again, similar to Star Wars in that there weren't as many characters, of course, in Blade Runner, but there are Kaiser and Bear action figures. There are, it's so great, and it's a very interesting sort of cult around the Blade Runner films as well, and yeah, big fan of that particular.
It's become very, very big because when it came out, it wasn't well received by I think everybody was expecting Star Wars, and here you came in with this big, heavy drama of something. They're like, "Wow, what is this?" It's like, "Did you read the book?" The book was much heavy like that too.
Yeah.
Do androids dream of electric sheep?
Yep.
Yeah. Are there any other roles that just sort of stick out to you over the years since Return of the Jedi that were just like you're because again, as I said, I mean it's everything from TV roles to movie roles. Are there roles that you're just you just really, I mean, obviously Return of the Jedi, Blade Runner, those sort of things are going to, stick with you and be the pictures on the wall. But what are some of the other things you've done that you've just been really very happy with and enjoyed the work?
There was a great part that both my wife and I were in. We guest starred on a show called The Neighbors, and sadly, it only ran for 1 year. But we had auditioned separately for two different characters that played in the same scene, and we both got them. And they were, it was funny. You can tell that story of how the crew thought about us.
Oh, well, we were filming because we were playing. It was like an April Fool's joke, and it was we were playing. We were adults, and we were like we were their children turned into little adults.
We were aged.
So it was like in the storyline, and so the crew kept. Kevin and I had our own dressing rooms, but of course, because we're married, we would go in each other's dressing room and visit or have lunch. And the crew didn't know that, and they kept looking and talking, and they thought it was funny. And then by the end of the week, they found out that we were married, and they're like, I thought something was going on. I had no idea you guys were married to each other. And I just thought something really scandalous was going on. So it was kind of funny.
And we're like, we would just be talking about like who's picking up the kid after. Did we set that up? Because I don't know if we're gonna get off. Who's doing that? It's always fine. He's gonna walk home.
But I guess apparently they had in their head that something really romantic.
Something was happening. That's right.
Something's going on here.
We're doing that. It was pretty funny, but it was fun to be able to, get auditioned separately and then get the parts, together, and them not really knowing that we were married, and it was fun to do something like that.
That's outstanding. I have to throw in there with that. Last October, they shot for a week the rebooted Wonder Years that is on.
Oh, yeah.
I live in Montgomery, Alabama, and they shot for a week here because the show is set here. And so I was a background extra in that. And in a similar but reverse to your situation, one of my best friends, she was also there, and we got paired up together in a scene to look like we were husband and wife. And because we knew each other and were hanging out the whole time, people kept going, "Is that your wife over there?" I'm like, "No, it's just a really good friend of mine." So it was kind of the opposite. Like they wanted to know, did y'all come together to do this? No, we just know each other. But
yeah, that's fine.
The same but opposite. Well,
that's great.
We want to transition here because we have this quiz that we like to ask our guests, to give our guests. It's the 10 questions quiz. We say it's kind of like Inside the Actors Studio, but for Star Wars. And there are no wrong answers here. And as we like to say, we will not judge you, but the internet might. We make no promises. But it's all fun, and we'll ask the questions. Of course, we want both of you to answer the questions if you have an answer for the question, so we'll throw each of them at both of you. So the first question is, what is your favorite Star Wars movie, TV show, or book?
I really liked Solo. I liked Star Wars. That was my favorite. I can't tell you any particular reason, but
sure.
I just really enjoyed that one. That's my favorite.
That's outstanding. I love that answer.
Yeah. And then I'm partial to Jedi, I'm partial to
Sure.
Ewok Adventure, but probably Rogue One. Because you know the ending, but you don't know that everybody's going to die. It's Hamlet, and you realize the dire straits that the Republic is in before Star Wars was kind of, when you look back at it, it's kind of, compared to that, it's kind of bubblegummy, and then you realize how the drama of we need to get these plans and blow up this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, It's interesting, this sort of era of Star Wars. When do you watch the Disney Plus shows as they come out as well? Are you still following Star Wars? Yeah, I mean,
Oh yeah.
it's interesting that we're in sort of an era of storytelling where, as Nick and I have been saying a lot lately, back in 1977 through 83, it was kind of a different time and it was kind of easy. You knew who the bad guys were, you knew who the good guys were. But as storytelling evolves and the world that we live in evolves, that sort of gray area is there. But more importantly, the bad guys are really bad. Like we don't, we now know, they don't just have cool uniforms and speak with British accents. They're bad people, and there's a lot happening there. And the good guys story is a little more complex as well. So I think it's a pretty exciting time. You said Caravan of Courage, and I feel like I totally missed the opportunity. At one point I had Eric Walker on the show about a year and a half ago, when we talked a lot about the Ewok movies. I'll take us off 10 questions just for 1 second and just tell us a little bit about how you got into that. Was it just sort of a, hey, you were in Jedi, we need another Ewok, come on the set? Or how did
no, all the
yeah.
Ewoks were all the Ewoks who had not stolen their outfits were asked back. Some stole their outfits, and so it's like they went by the heads of them. They went, well, we like this look and we like this, and so it's the people who matched up these things, and the people who did get in were the people who were supposed to get in. The guy who played Deej, Daddy Ewok, is Daniel Frischman, who was a Shakespearean actor, and he was perfect. Pam Griss played Mom. Debbie Carrington, who did the death scene on the Ewok, that is one of the saddest scenes out there. She was Big Brother Wooly. And Tony Cox, who did all the speeder bike stuff, was Ouija. And so, and those were, and then myself being the, not knowing, they didn't tell us who these characters were.
Right.
And I came in, they said, give us just somebody fun. And so I kind of did, you're the strong one because you're the big guy. So I did kind of like a Santa Claus, kind of like almost like a John Candy type of a character of that type of a character for Chukha Truk.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And did you before you did a little bit of Ewok-ese, did you actually speak a language on set for either Jedi or that, or did you was that added? I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was added afterwards. So did you learn it after the movie, or what did you?
He just going to make it up, but it would be fun. Daniel would be, because he's Shakespearean. He was very, into his character. You go, ooh, cha, as Deej, you say that, and go, dude, what are you saying? Because we can't see each other. So if you're talking gibberish to me, I'm not going to understand anything. So just talk to me in English, and they're going to loop it in later. And too bad they used local actors up in San Francisco, and like Dan, myself, Debbie, Tony, we didn't get a chance to do the dialogue itself. They used local people. They didn't want to fly us up there to do the, because it was under a budget for the voices.
Yeah, right.
For the voices.
Interesting. Oh, cool. Good. Well, let me get us back to the 10 question segment. I just wanted to go back. Yeah. So question number 2 is, what is, for the both of you, what is your favorite non-Star Wars movie? A movie that you like to watch? Yeah.
I love Empire of the Sun. It's many years ago. It was when Christian Bale was a young boy. I think it was probably his first film, and that has always been my favorite. I love that one.
It's a fun.
Probably Princess Bride.
Nice.
Really?
It's just I'll quote that from now on. It's one of those that you might.
Said Princess Bride.
We actually bought it for each other one Christmas.
Nice. I love that.
I bought Empire of the Sun for her too.
Yes, he did.
Yes.
So
that's right.
Nice.
He knew what
Christian
to do.
Bale before everybody else did.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, question number 3. Describe Star Wars in 3 words or less.
Star Wars in 3 words or less. You got it?
Okay.
Residual check today?
Winner. That's outstanding. Yep. Love it.
And mine would be, I'm going shopping.
I'm going shopping.
There it is. Nailed it. Best answers yet.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I don't know how we followed that up, but we'll go with the next question on the list, which is what is your favorite Star Wars sound effect?
Oh, best sound effect.
Everybody always says pew pew.
Pew pew. That's funny. That is pew.
Right?
Pew pew. That's favorite sound effect.
What was the Ewok sound effects?
No, me on the horn. Start the battle.
Yeah.
That's
Wait,
right. That's a good one.
You were the horn guy? That's right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
guy.
right.
Yep.
You are the
Yeah, up in the tree. In the very beginning of the battle, I'm of the first 10 shots, I'm 8 of them.
Wow, okay.
Nice.
All right, we're whipping out Return of the
That's
Jedi
fantastic.
tonight. We're doing
That's right. You've got a night
And
of
all
Blade
three-
Runner
all
and Return of the Jedi.
All three ATSTs I take out myself.
Yeah, you do.
You
See, that's it.
The Ewok killing machine. That was
The
that
one
was-
man Ewok wrecking crew.
Because
With all
Ewok,
the different heads.
yeah,
right?
with all the different heads.
Yep, that's awesome.
I do-
Okay, so the
I
next.
signal to my, what's great is I signal to myself and then I pull the rope for all the log to come out.
Mhm.
and then
That's
they
awesome.
show you with a different head on the other side.
That's right.
Right,
The
exactly.
magic of the movies.
Yeah.
That's
All
cool.
right, here's a fun one. What is your favorite droid? We've gotten
favorite
lots of
droid.
droids over the years, especially in the last few.
Oh.
You go first. I can't think of a favorite.
Well, why don't you just say R2D2? You like them.
I do
Yeah,
like R2D2.
that's a
And
safe
Kenny
answer.
is Kenny's a great guy.
Yeah.
Kenny really was a great guy.
Mm.
He was you just learned actually when you were doing the signings, you realized that he had an oxygen mask. He's
Mhm.
got a line a half a mile long, and he's there for every single fan to write.
Absolutely.
And he was a nice guy, and he's just like, I got into a great part, and it's just one of the, could have been someone else. It just happened to be me, and
Right.
he was just a neat guy. But Chopper's a great one too.
Chopper is a great
Chopper
one.
comes out and gets those guys. Actually, the droid I really like is the guy that doing the he's doing the torture on the one that scares the snot out of the R2D2 and C3PO.
Yep.
He's doing that. The guy's going, even though he's a robot, he's got this gleam in his eye that he's just got going,
Mhm. Enjoying it.
He likes it a little too much. It's funny. I can second your story on Kenny Baker. When I was doing work for Star Wars Galaxy magazine, I was covering a convention because it was before Star Wars Celebration, of course, in the '90s. As you know, the signings were wherever they could get it. It was one of the it was the Men Behind the Masks tour. So Dave Prowse was there, and Jeremy Bullock, and Kenny Baker, and exactly like you're saying, the line was a mile long, and he took the time with every single person, a smile, and just he was one of the favorite people. It's dangerous when you meet people who you've sort of always looked up to or always wanted to meet, and Kenny did not let anybody down from that perspective. He was really fantastic. He was great. Okay, so the next question is, which character would you most like to be and why? And we're going to take your Ewoks off there because I'm sorry, you already were. So which character from the Star Wars universe would you most like to be and why?
I can't think of her name, and I'm lost with the goggles. The
tough one.
Yeah, what was her name?
Was it that? Oh, it was that.
I forget her name.
Was it Rogue One? Was she in Rogue One,
I
or
think so.
She's one of the ones that live?
It's okay.
All right.
I can't think of her name. Sorry.
That's all right.
Of course, Han Solo.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. There's the guy. Hey,
that's the
it's
guy.
Me.
And I'll be your Princess Leia.
Oh, hot day.
There you go. That's right. Totally works. Halloween costumes are sorted already.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
We just need a little
well,
bit of alterations.
Right.
That's it.
That's fine. Totally fine. Little alterations.
Oh boy, slave lamb.
No, I didn't.
All right. So our next question is, what is your favorite Star Wars collectible? Now, you talked about not stealing the suit, so we know that you didn't steal the suit. But what other collectibles do you have that are some of your favorites?
My favorite are when kids come up and talk to us, for an autograph, and a lot of them draw their own pictures of an Ewok, and so I love we save every single drawing from children or adults or fans. We save them all, so those are my favorite collectibles. Are from the fans.
That's outstanding.
That give us, their handmade cards and drawings.
This one actually is a collectible because I was doing we were doing the
artwork.
The artwork.
Oh, the artwork. The cover
for the book.
Hiroshi Kanatani. He was at a Comic-Con in Pensacola before this, and we had never met each other, and we were doing a tour,
a private tour of the Blues Angels
the airport over there
museum.
Yep.
Yeah, so he went with us, and he English is his second language, so we hung out together, and he does a lot of
Ultron.
Okay.
Ultraman, yeah. Godzilla.
Ultraman, sure.
And so when he met us, he ended up making this picture of Kevin, his character of Chubray, and it didn't hardly take him any time.
About an hour.
And he gave it to us as a gift, the artwork.
I gave him the picture. I said, we had a great time. I did a signature for a picture, and I gave him a picture. And he goes, oh, thank you. And he goes, 1 minute. And he runs upstairs, and it's like, well, did he like it? Oh, I guess he's just putting it away. And he comes back down with this.
Yeah.
And he and it was like,
that's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
That is amazing.
We loved it so much, and we got permission to use it as our book cover.
That's awesome. It makes a great cover.
A great collectible too.
No doubt. Perfect.
That's amazing. Next question on our list for you guys is, if you could own any Star Wars vehicle or spaceship, what would it be?
Everybody wants to say the Millennium Falcon.
Everybody says the Falcon.
It's correct.
I always like the sand, that Lucas.
The speeder?
I mean,
on
Lucas,
Tatooine?
that it just kind of hovers.
The land speeder.
Luke's land speeder.
Land speeder. I like that one.
Yeah,
that's a good choice.
I'd like the speeder bike.
Oh yeah.
The speeder bike.
Yes.
For
sure.
And he did do a little stunt.
Oh yeah, I'm the guy that flies off the speeder bike. There's three of us.
Different ones.
There's three of us. It's Kenny Baker jumps on it,
right?
Then Tony Cox rides it, and then I fly off of it.
you get the hard part.
Tony's pretty hard for Kenny. Got the easy part. Tony did quite a bit of stuff on that.
And what's funny is there's all three of them are three different types of dwarfs. So I mean, their body structure is completely different on all three of them, but you can't tell with the fur.
No, not at all. You can watch Return of the Jedi, and I swing onto the ATSD with another Ewok with Chewie, and then there's two completely different Ewoks inside of it.
Okay,
you never caught that. No one does until I point it out, and then people go.
They can tell.
I cannot
ruin the movie for me.
I'll see it again. Sorry.
Awesome.
Yeah. Now you'll know.
That's cool. Very
Insider
cool. Well, our next,
but no one knew.
That's right. Insider moments. So our next question is, what is your favorite Star Wars moment out of this whole saga, out of this whole, all the movies, things that we've gotten? What is your favorite moment from one of the Star Wars movies?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. You must have one. Do you have his favorite moment?
You got the job.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a great moment. Can't deny that that's a great moment.
Yeah.
Yep, that's outstanding.
There's probably the shoot in when he Luke, use the Force, Luke. And so he pushes it away, and he becomes a man right there. And he shoots the things down the exhaust portal.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah, so that's like, and he rushes away, and so it's yeehaw.
There's, it's funny. I've said this before, but there's something about that moment. I've seen the movie. I saw it when I was 7 years old in the theaters in 1977. And to this day, 46 years later, I still feel like there's always a chance he's going to miss. And I've seen the movie a million times. I always feel like, that just speaks to great movie making and great moments, right? Just like you're saying. Yep. So, the last question on our list.
It is fun that if you have ever noticed, the dialogue in American Graffiti about how he's talking about the different cars and which ones are good and which ones are bad. I don't know how many times you've watched American Graffiti. Then you look at all the spaceships and the way they look at it, and it's almost the same exact dialogue that Han Solo is having as he is as the good old boy Texas driver is.
Right.
In American Graffiti.
Right. Yep. Very similar delivery. Very similar delivery. Very similar character. Yep.
Very similar dialogue of that. It's of what Princess Leia is talking about his car. And he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And it's those two. It's that piss yellow and puke green type thing again.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It's a great observation, and it's again another one of those movies that you can watch over and over again. So the last question on our list is, what is your go-to Star Wars quote? A Star Wars quote that you say at, whenever it pops in your head.
You're always like, there we go. I reminded him. He's getting something. Hold on.
That's right.
We can wait for sure.
Here he comes. Uh-oh.
Luke, I am your father.
Perfect.
There it is.
Do not underestimate the powers of the Force.
Now I gotta watch this thing.
That's right. Love that.
Anybody for soup?
Oh man, that was great.
Wherever we go, he's always finding something.
I know you.
A trash can or whatever.
Well, no. Hopefully.
What? She what?
I love you.
That's it.
No. What is it? What's the next line?
I know.
Yep. There it is.
Is that the quote? The famous
That's
quote?
the one.
That's the quote.
That's the good one. Excellent. Both wonderful choices.
Well, Kevin and Tracy, thank you so much. This has been so much fun hanging out with you guys. I'm like, now I'm going to be checking the mailbox every day for the book. Should be here any day. Amazon is usually pretty good about delivering. Where can people keep up with you, order the book, find information about you, find out where your signings are? I know you do. You were you at Celebration this year? You were, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
So we're selling the books there. Now that I just finished a secret Star Wars project. And so if you can kind of figure out if in the things of what just ended, and now it's open. So we're starting up the book tours again. We have a couple of things in March. We think we may have some stuff this month. We're still in the planning stages of those two things. Might be in town
Something
here.
local here in town.
Local.
And
Okay.
then
Arizona.
In March, we're going to be at
Mississippi.
Biloxi, Mississippi, and then also
Coast Con in San Francisco area.
California. Yeah, so we're getting out there once a month at least for our book tour.
Yeah.
Excellent. Is there where can they follow you on social, and do you have a website that people can jump on?
Yes. Do you?
You can follow me at Twitter, Little Man Tux, Instagram, Kevin Thompson 7337.
And your Facebook.
Facebook, Kevin Edward Thompson. And let's see, where else? Oh, on your Twitter is My Journey to Endor.
My Journey to Endor.
Of Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
That's Instagram.
And then Tracy McCoy Thompson.
Yeah.
Awesome.
On Facebook.
On Facebook.
Well, thank you both very much. This was so much
Yes,
fun.
thank you.
This was, the thing about Return of the Jedi and the Ewok movies are, and it's interesting because Nick and I and Chris, our partner on our Friday Night Live show, we kind of we're in that sort of original trilogy mindset a lot of the times, right? That we're loving everything new that's coming out. We're so thankful as Star Wars fans that I can share it with my children and Nick as well. But the opportunity to just hear stories from the movies that we grew up with is just it's a blessing that we get to do that as far as with our show here, and I'm so thankful that you guys gave us your time tonight. This was a lot of fun.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you that we still have people interested in it 40 years ago.
Hmm.
That's the amazing thing here. It was just true. I was a fan and everything, but when push comes to shove, it was just a job that you never know if it's gonna flop or fly. And this one flew.
And we've met amazing people from it just being a job. But I mean, we cherish all the friends we've made throughout the years, and so it's been our pleasure tonight. So
yes,
thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, and we will we'll keep in touch, and we'll let you know also when this goes live and all that stuff, and we'll definitely we'll put links to everything in the notes for the show, and this has been so much fun. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon.
All right. Okay, Pete, Nick, we'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It was good. It felt awkward at times, but I think ultimately it was good.
No, I agree completely.
It was weird. It was like good stories, but I think it's the challenge of interviewing two people at once.